Hello.
There
Okay,
you
there
go.
we go. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Kevin Ross Emery Show with.
Ashley Olstein, how are you today?
Oh, well, it's been one of those days. Uh,
I would agree. I'm on the same page.
and so I kind of want to start with the fact that, we're playing with format a lot these days. And make kind of sort of deciding. And in fact, I forgot to ask you before we went on air, if you saw the email, because we had somebody that approached us of wanting to be on the show. I think it was Daniel the Healer or something. I mean, I looked at it quickly and just was like,
Same.
oh. But really wanting to spend this time to share some of our insights and perspectives, and also be available to answer questions from our viewers slash listeners, and to do that. And we've chosen to play with the idea of themes,
Yep.
uh, but there's already wiggling happening. So, it's kind of like, well, uh-huh.
What's
And we ask people to send in like what they like, but for a theme means we're doing, usually it would be three shows on the same topic, because we feel like the topic is expansive enough that it's got 3 hours of talk time with listeners participating. And
yes.
so, that being one of the key elements of it is we're doing it with the idea that we want listeners to participate. So, and for this show and next show, we're going to be kind of sort of circling the wagons around gratitude.
November. It's that time. It's that time. It really, I hate the word should. It would be lovely if we could extend that gratitude month out to 12 of them.
Yeah. And, it's, it's, it's an interesting thing, gratitude. And there's a lot of places we can go with gratitude. Um, and but one of the things that occurs to me is that when we have everything going right, we may stop and express gratitude for it or not. But when things are challenging, you know, I think we don't express gratitude as much, that as we try to escape into gratitude, if we do anything at all with it. Does that make any sense?
It does. It does. I think you're going to have to expand on it a little bit more for clarity, but I understand where you're going with it.
Well, good. So if you could turn on your GPS, so I'll know where I'm going with it. I really appreciate it. I'd be very grateful. Uh,
But
uh,
boom.
boom. Well, one of the things is that oftentimes people are told to do gratitude work if they're feeling stuck or they're not manifesting what they want, if they're in struggle. And so then they have to kind of say, and I'm not completely opposed to this, and there are a ton of different kind of gratitude exercises. And in a minute, I'm giving you a little sneaky heads up that in a minute I'm going to ask you what your favorite gratitude exercise is to share with our listeners, because I'm sure you have a few that you
Very
work
nice.
with, um, and work with yourself with. I would hope. Um, but where we kind of miss it sometimes is we say, oh, well, I'm grateful because I have a roof over my head, and I'm grateful because I have food. And I think that that's important to do that. But I almost, a part of me wants to say, How about let's be grateful for the struggle? Let's say, yo, struggle, you're trying to teach me something. You're trying to help me be a better version of who I am. There's a number of different ways in which you may be doing this. You may be asking me to re-examine my priorities. You might be asking me to expand the way that I see myself or the world. You may be asking me in this struggle to actually learn to see myself or even appreciate myself differently. It's so interesting how often in struggle, there's some hidden part of us or some best part of us that comes up in the struggle. And we go, boy, am I glad that that's over. But because we didn't apply gratitude for the struggle to bring us there, it's like a winter coat that, oh, spring's here, we can put it back in the closet. I don't have to do that anymore. Instead of actually integrating it and allowing us to say, in moving through the world in my new improved self that I got because of the struggle, there'll be other struggles, but there'll be different struggles, and I will be better able to deal with them, to have a better tools in my tool belt, or my skill set will be higher, my resiliency will be greater. That there are so many things where we can roll into the struggle and be grateful for it, bringing us the gifts. Like, what are the gifts of the struggle that I can be grateful for and then embrace and integrate? And I don't hear a lot of people talking about that, but maybe I'm not listening to the right people. I mean, do you hear a lot of people talking from this perspective?
Well, I don't hear a lot coming at me, but it's certainly something that I haven't always practiced, but I would say in the past handful of years have been shining more of a light. And you and I have talked about that, where I look at some of the hardships that I've had in the past. And as much as certain things have just sucked, it has made me stronger, better, more empathetic. And I can look back at it and appreciate the challenge that I was facing and appreciate the moving through it. And I'm grateful for the struggle because of what it has shown me. It's kind of put a light on something that I would have preferred to just leave, in the corner, swept under a carpet, all the things, lock the door, barricade it up. But I do really appreciate having that opportunity. I work on integrating it into my future self, my present and future self. And I think that happens incrementally. It's not like just, well, got that, and it becomes part of me. But it's something that I try to talk about when I'm working with clients. Most people come for readings, healings when they are in a hard time. So it's a little bit easier to say, hey, let's look at the opportunity you're given. What is the universal lesson that you're being shown? Let's look at the struggle as a gift, the word you used, and reframe it. Let's take it for what it is, because this is coming at you. This is happening. And so how can we look at this as an opportunity and a gift, not a hardship?
And, I think that, we all hear the play on words that, if we aren't careful, can become platitudes.
Mm.
And it's so funny because I was saying to a client the other day, I said, you can say this and it can be a platitude, or you can say this and it can be an attitude. And,
Oh, that's very clever. I like it.
and as an attitude is, I am actually understanding and integrating this wisdom.
Yep.
And I am moving through the world with a better attitude. But I'm not saying it, it's, it's kind of in my mind. My brain is all over the place. I talked to you.
Yours? No.
I had talked to you just ever so briefly about that this day had some struggles in it, and a very mixed bag of
Yeah.
struggles. And so, but it's kind of sometimes. So first of all, and I know you've heard me say this, and somewhere in the almost 21 years or more that I've been on air, I'm sure I've said it on air, but I can't remember the last time. The problem with most people that are doing gratitude work and prayer, I mean, and that might be something we should do for a whole month, is talking about the art and science of prayer. I'm just throwing that out.
I like it.
Because why would I not come up with 54 other topics before tonight's over?
You only have so many months.
Uh-huh.
Tune in September of 2035.
I was like, in the year 2525, man is still alive. So, is that the problem? Is most people do prayer as a monologue, and prayer done correctly is a dialogue.
I would agree.
And when we pray as a dialogue, we're not children asking for presents like it's Christmas.
Yeah.
We're asking for wisdom. We're asking for strength. We're asking for insight. We're asking for guidance. We're, trying to break out of some limitation we have that is keeping us where we are, so we can move, like in a video game, up to the next level. You have leveled up. And it's just,
Well, I think of it like that, not a video game, but I do think of these leveling up. I don't know how else to describe what I feel, but that's as close as it gets. Leveling up.
So in that, sometimes the answer to our prayers is actually struggle.
Yes, which seems counterintuitive, but in fact, that's what is in the cards.
It's like, I need to know how I can break through this block, in my relationships or in my career or whatever. And spirit, universe, our higher self, the great pumpkin, I don't know, whoever, and says, okay, so you're really in the wrong career. You hate it. You're in the wrong career. You really hate it, but you won't show any faith. So there, you just got laid off. You just got fired. The company just got belly up.
You're welcome. Yeah.
You're welcome. And now you have a choice of, am I going to grab the first thing I can and just, sell myself into another level of, slavery or prostitution, just repeating what I did before so I can go through this all again? Or am I going to go, well, thank you, universe. I can't say I'm thrilled with the way in which you've helped catapult me out of the comfy, familiar chair I was whining in about how much I hate my job. But, it makes me think of the chairs. For some reason, I think of the Batmobile back in the 1960s, where they could push a button and it would eject and they go whoosh. And it's like,
yep,
there you are. We're going to eject you right out of that whining little shitty diaper you've been sitting there complaining about, but taking no action.
Yep.
Well, here, something came. I don't know if I'm going to like it. Well, you hate what you got now, so what do you got to lose? Like, step off the cliff and figure it out. because that's actually when humans do their best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. When your back is against the wall, there you go.
You learn
Figure it
how
out.
to, you learn how to throw your elbows back and break the damn wall and create more space.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and so, kind of going back with going, okay, not how I planned it, not how I wanted it. Did you miss the part where I'd be really happy if I won a lottery? Like, I was asking for the winning lottery numbers, not having to work harder or maybe like actually take a risk or, and of course, in all of this, when we talk about struggle and we talk about gratitude, change is an invitation. And we are so brainwashed into fearing it.
Well, and again, anything that you approach with a fear mentality or a fear foundation is it doesn't feel as solid. It doesn't, if you can go into something with a little more confidence and know that it's going to be okay, and change is hard, but it's happening, and just one foot in front of the other rather than cowering in fear. And that energy will respond.
And sometimes it's just like something has just got to give.
Hmm.
Sometimes the girdle has to break.
Delicious.
No, but so I don't know what's coming, but thank God where I was leaving is over. And so there are so many things that we have been brainwashed to think it's bad if we're grateful for. Like, wow. I mean, I'm very clear and I get lots of very funny looks about this. And I stand in this and, people are going to think what they think. And the majority of people out there aren't thinking anyway. So what the hell? They're expressing thoughts, but they're just other people's thoughts. They're just parroting them. They actually didn't put the energy in to think it through. I've been saying, and I've got my more immediate family really well trained at this point. Trained was probably the wrong word, but know that the prodigal son is never going to really. So no one's watching. None of my family would ever watch my podcast, my radio.
That was what I thought of as soon as you said it. I was like, oh, they won't watch.
Yeah. I mean, I do have a cousin that watches very regularly, and she lives by the motto of telephone, telegraph, tell her, because she'll make sure she spreads out to everybody else. I don't give a shit. But as my mother is in a memory care unit. She has dementia, and every day I go, the blessing would be for her to pass today. I would be grateful if she passed today. She has no quality of life. She doesn't know who I am.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I think more people are kind of getting there around something like dementia, but still I see so many people when somebody has no quality of life, when they're struggling, when they're holding on. Sometimes if they have a right mind, it's because they've been made so petrified of death,
Yeah.
by mainstream religion. Okay. That instead, and that there are times when, there are definitely times when death is a blessing. And then I see it and I do it because I've done hospice work and I've worked with families and I've worked with people dying. And I see them make this place where they can almost mouth, yes, it would be a blessing if they passed. And then they pass and the person feels relieved, and then they feel guilty as all hell.
Yeah, responsible. Yep.
I wish them dead.
Yeah.
If they called me tonight and said my mother passed, I'd be like, I wished her dead. My wishes were answered.
Yeah. Thank you.
And get to move on.
Yeah.
You know?
I understand.
But I think we have to break through a lot of nonsense. And I think that the path of gratitude is to look at, when we look at what's really best for people, even if what they're doing isn't best for us in some way, shape, or form, we should be grateful that they found their path, even if that path is it's time to die, or it's time to walk away.
Right.
It's time to leave a relationship, or it's time to end a toxic relationship. And that relationship can be with parents, with children, with siblings, with spouses, with your pets.
Never.
Favorite gratitude exercises. Because since I meandered all over the place.
All over the place. Well, I kind of touched on a little bit. Like I do think about, probably perseverate's a better word, but think about, some of the struggles that I've been through. And I have trained myself to look at, I mean, sometimes I can't see it. Sometimes I need to, visit it for a while, but then I've trained myself to be able to see the light in it and the gift in it. But my favorite gratitude practice is, I have a few. It's, I say I guess I'll call them my prayers before I go to bed at night. And this has been something that I've done for a handful of years. And I start off with one prayer that my grandmother taught me, and it makes me feel close to her when I'm falling asleep. I don't have a religious affiliation at this point. I really am just about divine, the universe, Mother Nature, all of that. So when I say the prayer, my grandmother taught it to me with a religious flair, although she was a very spiritual woman. But I say that at night, and then I go through and after I say that, I do a gratitude, and I thank all the spirits around me, and then I go through each member of my family and, thank my guides and the angels for helping me to take care of everybody in my bubble, and etc. So there's a huge amount of thanks that happens with that and gratitude. So that's one. And my other second favorite would be in meditation. I start my meditation with gratitude and appreciating my connection to things outside of myself and outside of this realm, really, and appreciating how they make me feel like I'm home and that I'm never alone.
One of the simple gratitude things that I've shared this with my clients, and in fact, this prayer is in my book, Experiment Earth. And it's the gratitude that I do before I eat.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, from a scientific standpoint, it showed if you actually sit with your food and you like get into a headspace of being present with your food and you're receiving your food, that you digest better, you absorb better, that there's physiological benefits. And so it doesn't have to be a religious prayer, but to me, because when I sit down with my food, my thing is, dear God and Mother Earth, if I'm by myself, but if I'm usually doing prayers, if I'm eating with somebody else, it's like, we ask that this food willingly gives up its essence. And that very first part, we ask the food to willingly give up its essence. we recognize the divinity of the food. We recognize that the food has an essence.
Yeah. I
And
love
that
that.
and it's gifting its essence to us so we may continue our journey. It's one of the reasons why I've had times in my life where I have been vegan, where I've been vegetarian, um, but it was never for spiritual reasons. You know, when I went through some health issues over a decade ago, and when I first found out that I, should never eat gluten in any quantity again. I mean, I'm not celiac, but if I have a little bit of gluten here or there, like if there's a gluten in the fry later and I eat fries, it's not going to whack me. But if I eat a big plate of gluten, I
Right.
can be sick. And things like this. And so when I got the fact that even though we don't know, because what I had was a heart virus, and we didn't know what created the heart virus. What we did know is that at that point, my body could not take any kind of additional stress,
Yep. Yep.
and that included eating prepared, like toxically prepared food, lots of chemicals, lots of words you can't pronounce on the labels.
Yeah.
And so I went for a year, probably a little over a year, and didn't eat anything I didn't make, didn't use any food I didn't get from a local farmer's market. Everything was from scratch. I knew where everything came from, and I went and I bought half a buffalo. And I went to the buffalo farm. I met the buffalo before he went to slaughter. I talked to the buffalo. I thanked the buffalo for his, gifting his life up for mine.
I think it's beautiful. I'm in denial over here, but that is a beautiful, beautiful thing to do, and it's the right thing to do.
And when that came back, and of course, you get a half a buffalo, it only has 2 of the 4 legs. And I had a Mustang convertible at the time, and the poor thing had such difficulty hopping behind me as I was driving home.
Stop it. Not funny.
But no, when it all came packaged up, I felt sacred and connected with every piece of that meat.
Mhm.
And when I would go to the farmers markets and I would talk and I would literally, and so in my prayer again, dear God, Mother Earth, we thank you for this food. We ask this food to willingly give up this essence. And then it's the intention. And again, this is all that this goes into some of the gratitude stuff we're talking about is, and with this essence, we ask, dear God, Mother Earth, we thank you for this food. We ask this food willingly give its essence, and we accept this essence as a gift from Father and Mother. And as we take this in, we ask that this brings us peace or insight or resilience or whatever. I felt like this is what I'm working on today. And I'm putting it out to the universe, to the food. Like, here is where I am asking for support. And I'm going to ask that you not only did I thank you for your essence, did I recognize your essence, but then I told your essence what I wanted it to do. And then I'm at a whole, so it is, say, I do all my little closings that I do, honoring in multiple spiritualities and religions as kind of, they all have a pathway back to spirit if you choose to travel that part of the pathway, they bring it, and they can all go terribly wrong if you take the wrong turn on. They can all do it. So yeah, so I mean, that's one of the things I go, it makes such a difference because it takes me 3 or 4 minutes, 2 or 3 times a day to be expressing gratitude.
I would agree. And when I learned Reiki, one of the things that we talked about during the class was again like blessing your food. And it can be a blessing. It doesn't have to be Reiki. It's just that was in the context of when I learned it or learned this practice about blessing the food, but then exponentially. So, you can bless the food and then it ripples out to the supermarket clerk that rang it up, and then the person that put it on the shelves at the supermarket, and the truck that brought it in, and the truck driver, and the farmer who harvested it, and then the farm itself and the land, and so on and so on and so on. And something as simple as a thought, so a split second, 2 seconds before you actually eat the food, and give it uh, some credit for what it is, and then let it ripple out. I think anything that one can do like that to honor the food and honor the earth and honor the planet, all of that energy starts going back in. There's too much negative thoughts. We've got to balance it out with some of these positive thoughts.
Well, and it gives you moments of being exactly where we should be in all of our moments, which is fully present
Mm-hmm.
in this moment. Because the only thing that you can do is what you do in this moment.
Yep.
The next moment will come. And when you are aware and you are in flow, you will be ready for that next moment. And then you'll be in that moment. But you can't do anything about that moment until that moment is this moment. And being grateful and being in the moment and being thankful, even when it's thankful for the day. My day started fabulous today. I had a networking group that I go to. It was my turn to present. And they were early on, there was some technicals, and the woman wanting it kept on freezing, and the meeting looked like it was going to be running a little late, which would then cut into the time I had for presentation. And I'm just sitting there going, it is what it is. As somebody who's been doing professional speaking for 3+ decades, 4+ decades, because I did, definitely did my speaking in the corporate world as well and presentations. It's like, you give me 5 minutes, I'll make it the 5 minutes, the best 5 minutes of your life. You give me 50 minutes, I'll make it the best 50 minutes of the life. You give me 5 hours, I can fiddle it, and you're gonna walk out of the year going, whoa, right? And so I'm always very present of also adjusting, like preparing myself, but also being present. So, but it came, and I had some loose thoughts about what I was going to do. I do public speaking a little different than some other people do. I had my little friends, which I think I've showed you. I think when you've been over to the house, that were made for me, the little mini Kevins that were crocheted, that were based on my website pictures.
Oh, I don't think I've seen those.
Well, next time you
Now
come
I
up.
have something to look forward to next time I come up. I'm going to ask.
So
Cute.
these, a client gave them to me as a Christmas gift. I think it was last year or the year before. And when him and his husband gave them to me as my Christmas gift, I loved how he organized the information, because he said, there are these women here that I met, and they will make these dolls from pictures, and they're all crocheted by hand,
Oh,
and they do it. And the money they raise goes to an orphanage in Peru
nice.
to help, with food and clothing and of these orphans in Peru. So first of all, they were immediately special to me because I know that they were made with love and made with an act of love that was that ripple that, like you talked about, the blessing that ripples out.
Yep. Yeah,
And,
that is a perfect example of it. Just
but each one represents the four verticals on my website. So one of them might have a suit, and one of them might have these spiritual looking clothes, and one I have a big scarf on. And like they're all, you'll appreciate when you see them.
oh, I look forward to it. That's funny. I love it.
And sometimes if I'm like, I've done a booth at a networking event, not to be confused like with the fairs we do, like an actual, there would be booths at it. And I set the four men down. So when people come up and ask me what I do, I introduce them to the four men and identify what each man does, who is a representation of me, and right off my website. And if you would go to my website, you're going to recognize that these dolls were wearing the clothes I was wearing in the pictures on the website.
That's very fun. I'm going to put your website up now. There.
So
I want to find Kevin's website to see those four dolls, real life dolls. This
yeah,
is Kevin's website, kevinrossemery.com.
Thank you. It's not the first time I've been called a doll.
That's right, doll.
Yeah, sometimes it's the Chucky doll, but that's okay. But but at the very last minute, like a minute and a half before I was going to be my turn, and it all worked out, and I had my time, and I ran because I keep them in my living room. They have a little honored place and a window in my living room, and I ran in and I put them in front of the camera because it was a Zoom networking event, and it was just really great. And I knew I was in flow, and I knew I was on fire, and I could just see the people. And I got so many people that responded to it. And in fact, I was off the phone for less than a minute, and somebody called to book an appointment with me.
Perfect. It's the way it's meant to be.
Yeah, and in going through that, I weaved in all my stuff, and I ended up with my ready thing, which I've shared with you before, as
Mhm.
And
Yep.
so the question is, are you ready? And this is what ready means. And I went through it all and wove it all in. And so I ended that networking event on a high. I felt good. I felt like I connected. I had so many people thanking me that I really just they were just like, oh my God. And so there was this great thing. And then I had to go pick up my new phone at the front door.
And there it is, the technology burp.
And I get there, and the thing is I've actually built some good relationships with these people because I had a problem recently. And in solving the problem, we realized that the phone just needed to be replaced, and there was all sorts of stuff that happened, and they knew I was going to come in and they were going to help me. And it was just one thing after another. I got there at 10:30 in the morning, and I left at 2:45 in the afternoon, and it was still not finished. Because I have a personal phone, I have a business phone. My newest phone is always my business phone because I spend an incredible amount of hours on my business phone. And I spend far less on my personal phone. So whenever I switch phones, I've got to then move the number.
Shuffle.
Yeah, it's going to be this shuffle. So we got a 3-phone shuffle here.
Like a 3-card Monty.
Yeah. But was really actually, there was 2 new employees there that was listening to some of the conversations with the older employees that I like. And I had this wonderful opportunity where this kid was trying so hard, and he couldn't help somebody because the person couldn't be helped because they were at the wrong place. The person needed to go to Geek Squad at Best Buy, but wanted the AT&T stores to be technicians, and they're not technicians. and there was a little bit of a language barrier, and they're getting very frustrated. And they went out, and the guy, like he's brand new, and he was just like, it's like I tried, and the guy that's
Oh,
working with me is one of the been there the longest. If anybody's going to have the answer, he has it. I was working with this guy. In fact, it's probably going to end up that this guy, his wife, and me and my husband are going to go out for drinks or dinner sometime. I mean, it's that kind of. I mean, this connection has been building, but I got to sit there and go, you didn't do anything wrong. Even if the guy I was working with had a solution, the only way when you're new, you learn about a solution that you haven't run across is to bring it over and say, I've done what I can. And then somebody, and he was like, but he was so, I just feel like I failed. And I said, no. I said, at the end of the day, the most experienced person in the store kept saying, but we are not technicians. We cannot solve this problem.
yeah.
You need somebody that can run diagnostics that we don't have the tools for. And I said, so I got to help this guy get over this bump, feeling like, had screwed up and looked like a failure in his first couple of weeks at a new job, which is so devastating, especially for like a 20 something.
Yeah.
To do that. And I got to have some great conversations with some of the other people, and I got to share some thoughts and ideas, and we had and I said, so did I want to spend 5 hours at the AT&T store? No. But did I make the best of it? Or did I sit there and struggle with it? I said, oh God, I'm still here. Can't this go faster? What's wrong with you? And I had a couple of clients, and they loaned me a store phone, and I went out and walked around, and I did my clients on the phone like I do. They come back in, how's it doing? And then finally they were like, this next part is going to take 10 hours. I'm going to set you up, let you take it home, because I run my businesses on my phone. Do you know how much data has to be transferred?
Yes.
And they're like, you're going to have better Wi-Fi, you're going to have better connection, it's all set to go. But there was a struggle there was 1,000 other things I wanted to do with my day-to-day. I thought 45 minutes an hour, because they come and say, this should be really easy. And it should be easy. But, this didn't update, and now it can't talk to that, so we have to update that, and this and that, and this, and then how much do you have on this? What? It's like, I was like, I got more stuff on my phone than on my laptop.
Crazy. But that shows we've all been, I call it hijacked, when your day gets hijacked and you've got a plan and it goes left. And you're stuck doing something else. Usually you're in a place like the phone store or an emergency room, or, there's something else where your day just didn't go, or your car breaks down and you're stuck at the dealership, having it fixed. It's been towed somewhere. Anyway, the days that you can just succumb to it and just ride the wave. And it's so hard to do, but it's so much easier in the long run when you can just go with the flow and say, all right, this isn't what I had in mind. And if you can find some gratitude, that's impressive. But if you can say, okay, thank you. This gave me an opportunity to look at you. You got to make new friends, and you'll probably go out to dinner with them. And you've been knowing him for a while, but you got to sit there for 5 hours today and, shoot the shit. But it's the other way when you fight it and get upset and angry. And why is this happening to me? And those are the days that really just suck.
I think one of the underlying spiritual messages, and it's funny because I always look for themes in my client sessions. Like if I find myself saying the same thing 4 or 5 times, I'm looking at the theme. And, when I do that, first of all, I always kind of say, hey, am I needing to apply this to myself? Have I forgotten something? Have I lost perspective on something? What do I need to get out of the fact that now I've told the same story 5 times because it was the right story to tell to help the client for 5 totally different reasons, but it was the
Right.
same story.
Yeah.
And knowing that I can roll those out and help somebody see something that they can't see when it's too close inside them, when they're too. And, but one of the ones I've realized has been coming up lately, and I applied that today to help me stay actually in a form of gratitude, which was that, you know, if you want to know, and I think I've actually said this to you in a conversation we had not too long ago, where it's like, when a student goes into a classroom, they at least theoretically know what they're there to learn. Like going
Right.
to a history class, so I'm there to learn history. But a really good teacher goes in and says, what is this class going to teach me this year? What am I going to learn from the class?
Yeah.
Not here to blah and do one way,
Yeah.
like prayer. A lot of people do prayer as yowling at God with their list of requests, like God is Santa Claus.
Yeah. I'll take those winning numbers now, please, for the lottery. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, if God wanted to give me the winning numbers, I wouldn't refuse.
But it
Well,
would be a dialogue. It wouldn't be a request.
yeah,
Yes, back and forth.
but if a teacher goes in and says, I know there are things that I can learn from this group that's going to maybe make me a better teacher, maybe change my life, maybe, I don't know. I just need to stay open to it. And so I applied that when I got there, and it's like, okay, this is going slow. So I said, okay, why am I here? I'm here for something. I'm going to go with the flow. I'm going to see what I'm going to be here. Is it a person's life I'm going to touch? Is it a piece of information I'm going to get? Is it something I'm going to figure out? I was there long enough that I had to go eat. And, there was a couple of places that I only go if I'm absolutely desperate that were within walking distance. And then I realized that there was this great, like, huge Indian store where I could go and get healthy food. And it was the same walk in a different distance. Because, everybody's like, well, there's a Cumberland Farms at the top of the hill and you can grab a snack there. And I went,
Bleh.
yeah, but my stomach is going, and I need something. My blood sugar is getting low. It is not, it gonna have to have something. But I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I'm sure there's something over there. You sent me south, I went north. There it was. And
Perfect.
I was grateful that I got to try something that I never tried before. I got to explore a place I'd never gone to before. That had some interesting things that, for groceries that I might go back. I mean, I've always said I'd like to play with Indian cooking at some point.
Well, now you have your fancy kitchen with the hood. Get all that air out of there. Yep.
Yep.
That's what we're having for dinner tonight, by the way. Some Indian. So you must be psychic. Yep. It's waiting for me downstairs.
But I was grateful that they gave me a store phone so they would keep working
Yeah.
with my stuff to try to make it happen. And, so I kept on looking for the opportunities for things to be grateful for. So instead of going out and forcing yourself to make the list, I'm grateful I got out of bed this morning. Yeah, it's a little wimpy, but we'll give you credit. Food in my refrigerator. I'm not saying not to be grateful for those things, but I'm saying if you're really looking to have a deep relationship with gratitude, which is hanging out with its bedfellows of spiritual growth, prosperity, manifestation, expansion, like those cousins all hanging out together, is that you are just aware of what can I be grateful for? it was a beautiful day and I got to walk around an area I don't normally walk around, and I got to have my clients, and I got provided a phone while they were working on stuff, and I got to try some different food. And so I kept on refilling the grateful well,
Yeah,
saying, I'm here and there's a reason I'm supposed to be here.
absolutely.
So,
I've been making posts on Facebook about things that I'm grateful for every day, and it's funny, sometimes I'll run them by my husband, and I made a post the other day that I was grateful for my feet, and he was like, "What? That's just weird." And by the time I was finished writing it, he's like, "All right, I get it." He's like, in the beginning, he said, "I thought that was really an odd thing to put on Facebook that you're grateful for." But, bottom line, I'm grateful for my ability to move around and be free in my body to go do the things that I want to do physically. So my feet, it starts with my feet, and also my feet are what connects me to the earth and help me to feel grounded and blah blah blah. But it's been really fun to try and think of things that are a little step to the side. They're not the normal. Like, I am grateful for waking up this morning, and I'm grateful for the food in my fridge, which I am. But and it's funny, I didn't know what we were going to talk about this afternoon, this evening at all, but I've been thinking ahead to some of my other posts, and one of which dovetails in perfectly to our conversation about struggle, about kind of looking at the silver lining of things that may not have always been fun and fantastic. But it's important.
so, one of the things here, Ash, is that I immediately, when you said you did a post, because I don't know that I saw that post, because some days I don't get on social media at all when I have a lot of clients and a lot of things to do. And, I, I reach a point where I give myself grace of like, I'm tapped out. I can't,
Oh, totally. Yeah.
yep, I can't go on there. But as soon as you said that, I know, because, it wasn't that far in your past where you had something where you were laid up. And I was like, well, that makes sense to me. Like, you couldn't
Yeah.
walk around with any kind of ease or grace or without pain or limitation. So, of course, you learned a whole new appreciation for your feet that maybe before the fall, weren't quite as like grateful for. You might have been a little bit more like, yeah, their feet. They take you places. I'm happy. But when they stop taking you places for a while, and then you turn around and start going places, you're like, oh, baby, we love you. Mommy loves you, baby.
Absolutely. And sometimes it does take that contrast, that perspective to look at things with a fresh eye. And yeah, I have a friend who passed away from ALS, and she was unable to walk for a long time, and she was, bedridden and unable to speak for a long time. And I think that being with her throughout her disease really gave me a lot of perspective about things that we all, and me included, always took for granted, because it's just, just what happens. And, she was 100% there mentally, but physically her body was, failing her, you know, part by part. And so, I think of her often with my gratitude. Yeah. And my feet fall into that category when I think of my dear friend Dana. So,
Did you say Dana?
mhm.
My best friend, and I called her my spiritual wife for over 20 years, because we
That was her
started.
name?
Her
Oh,
name is Dara,
Dara. Yeah.
but she died of ALS.
Stop it. I never knew that.
Yeah.
Huh. Oh, we'll have to chat more about that sometime off air. But
Sure.
I'm really sorry that that was her experience. Also, that's a tough one. It's
It is.
yep. I've lost friends to other things. ALS is it's a thief.
And when it gets to the point where they just, the brain is working, but they can't communicate anymore. It's got to the place, and I don't know at what stage that Dana got there, but I was very grateful of the fact that we had such a psychic and connection, and we were so connected on so many levels that when I would go spend time with her, when I would go visit her, I could ease sometimes what she wanted because I just knew
You just can communicate. Yeah.
we could communicate. So, but yeah, it is. I mean, something can be sad, something can be painful, but there are still places where you can find gratitude in it. When her child was getting married, they were at a place where they, they wanted to do something more, but we weren't sure that more was going that Dara would get to the more.
Oh,
And at that point, she was staying with her sister in South Carolina, and I just, I mean, her child is you know my I'm gonna call them my spiritual godchild. They call
mhm.
me fairy godfather. Uh, and I was like, yep, I was on the next plane to South Carolina. I'm going to do the wedding. I'm going to do it so that the at least the ceremony part of the wedding, and and I can marry people, and I got all the stuff, and she got to lay in the bed and be there and be part of the wedding and do stuff like that, and it was, and I'm like, find the gratitude
Yeah. Yeah.
that you can facilitate that.
And I mean, what it doesn't get better than that. And as you and I know, our loved ones, our friends, they're still checking out everything that's going on.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh
I
yeah.
Dana comes through to me in ladybugs. So I have a feeling I'll be seeing a ladybug in the next couple of days as a little like, yeah, thanks for the shout out.
Well, it was interesting because at the very end of it, she moved to go live with her child and their spouse, and in Portland, Oregon.
Mm.
And so she went from living with her sister to over living in Portland, Oregon. And when it was really getting bad at the end of it, um, there was this conversation with me as, I don't know why she's holding on at this point. Like, it was just like, there's death is a blessing type of thing.
Right, right.
And it struck me, and I said, oh, I promised her I would be there when she went.
So you had to get yourself to Portland to let her go.
Nope. I said, put her on the phone.
Ah,
I know she can't talk,
yeah.
but I talked to her. I told her she could go. I told her I would take care of the child as an adult, that I would be
Yeah.
their parent, that I would be that parental, like, older person that they could go to.
Yeah.
And I just kept talking, and literally they hung the phone up and she died. And because I suddenly realized I had promised her I would cross her over.
Beautiful.
And I was sitting on, we had just moved into this house. You know what I'm talking about, the place where we meet oftentimes.
Yep.
Hadn't been created. It was open. There was just screens. There was no windows at that point. There were just, like screens, which are now the windows. And it was all open, like open beam, and there was nothing, and it was just a 3-season porch. And I got off the phone and I was just sitting there in the dark as the sun was going down. And I could see her walk up on the porch, look into the window, and thank me before she left.
It's beautiful. And look at that. That's gratitude. And we're out of time. So we've gone a little over. So we'll end on that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful message of gratitude from your friend Dara to you.
Absolutely.
Love
And
it.
next week, we'll see what's going on that you can, we didn't have any comments today, but maybe we were just too entrancing.
Too chatty, too entrancing. All right. Until next week.
Bye.
Bye.